Hi everybody, this is Harmony with Harmony Stitches and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with me while I talk to you about my crafting journey. Here on my channel, we talk about my crafts, which are usually cross stitch, knitting, and crochet. Lately, I have been doing a lot of knitting, so you'll see that, but I'm still plugging away at my cross stitch as well. So thank you so much for stopping by. And if you're a subscriber and a liker and a commenter, thank you so much for those things, because that really does encourage me to keep on going and making more videos. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll talk about what I did this week and then plans for next. On my lunch breaks, and in the car just a little bit this week, I've been continuing on working on the bee. I continued my work on the bee, I should say, and this is by Amy Bruecken Designs. And I found a little kit by Adam Original that has, so I'm stitching my bee on the pre-made fabric that Adam Original has created. It comes with a little piece of Aida and then the tool for the wings. If you can see that on there, there are wings. And if you are following along, I said that when I found this, I'm like, oh, it's already pre-made. And it seemed like a really good idea. But then as you're stitching it, it really doesn't make any sense because it's so closed up, you can't get your stitches in there. You can't get your fingers in there. You can't get your needle in there. So I am, as I'm going, I am taking the stitching out to open it back up. And let me show you what I mean. So here's my progress as we talk about this on Bee by Amy Bruecken Designs. So I only have this small section left to fill in, and it doesn't look like much, but this is 18 count Aida. So there's a lot of stitches in there still. So this is what I'm talking about. It was like a little pocket. So it was sewed up, it's sewed up here, and it was like a little pocket. Well, when you're stitching, you couldn't get the pocket open. So I have opened up the stitching, the seam, and I will take it all out just so that way I can take out the thread that was used and then I'll put my own thread back in. But it just didn't work. It wasn't practical. It's great for, I think, on one hand, for people that may not have a sewing machine or may not know how to go about finishing something, which I never would have thought of this myself. So I'm being fair to everybody. But it just wasn't practical to stitch on. So I am using the called for DMC and this, and I'm plugging away. So this week I got the last dark section, the last light section done, and then I'm working on the next black section, which it actually gets pretty big. And then there's one other light and dark section, and then the rest of the head is done in black. And so I should be able to zip through that part pretty quickly. What I'm going to do is outline that section so I can find where to place the eyes, put the eyes in, and then I just fill in the rest of it. So I don't think I'll be done this week, so you might see it another 2 times before I am done. But that's pretty fair. There's a lot of stitching, and since I'm only working on it on my lunch, there was actually in this last 2-week period a lot of lunch breaks that I got my lunch, but it was like welcome back lunch for all the teachers and staff to come back. Well, I obviously didn't stitch while I was sitting with everyone at lunch and things like that. So if I'm eating together, like at a potluck or something, I don't stitch. Some people may think that's rude, so I just don't do it. And there's a lot of talking going on and, you know, all that fun stuff for potlucks. Okay, the next thing I was working on is actually the only other thing that I worked on is my big comfy sweater. Some of my commenters called it color black sweater, which is fine because that's how it can be identified, because it's definitely color blocked. The progress that you saw in last week's video was all previous progress. That is where I put it down. I had not started knitting on it last week when I showed you. I started on, I think, Sunday night. I film and upload. I try to film and upload every Sunday. Sometimes technology gets in the way and it gets uploaded on Monday. So I filmed and pulled everything out and got my needles, and then I got started working on it. And you guys, it was so silly. It was so silly where I left it. So let me show you my progress. We have panel number 1. As you remember, I had 1 panel completed. That looks like there's a hole in there. One of my stitches is just really big. So this ridge section is the top of the sweater. It will go like this. And the arms are not all the way down. They're maybe 3/4 lengths. And it's so that way you can wear it with maybe a tank top or a cami underneath, or you can wear it with a long sleeve shirt, depending on how you want to layer. And then it goes the yellow, blue, yellow, and then on the bottom section is a little bit of black and the ribbing. So panel number 1. And then panel number 2, if you remember, I had the ribbing and the black section done, the yellow section done, and I was working on section number 2 or number 3, the blue section. And I said, oh, I'm about 3/4 of the way. I had 5 rows left. 5. That was it. So I blew through the yellow section really quickly and got that done, and then attached my yellow and got started. And I can't remember, I should have taken notes to tell you. The yellow and the blue section took me no time at all. I worked the bulk of the week on the black, but I did get my knitting done. So I have panel number 2. And it was painstaking, and I don't think that I brought my notes up here. But what I do for things like this is I just take a piece of notebook paper and I will say, okay, how much, when I follow the pattern, if it says 2 inches of ribbing, how many rows did I get for 2 inches? And I do tally marks. So that way when I come to the other panel or the other sleeve or the other sock or the other mitten or whatever, if you have to do 2 of them, this is what my process is. So then I do tally marks. And then I did tally marks for the number of black rows that I did above the ribbing. And then I did tallies for how many yellow rows, how many blue rows, how many yellow rows, and then I took the ridges is a 4-row repeat pattern, and it makes the ridges. So I wrote it all out to do my tallies or check marks or whatever. Well, it wasn't my notes from the first panel were not very clear when it came to the ridge section. So I had to keep laying out panel number 1 and then lay panel number 2 on top of it and be like, okay, am I there? And that was when I got down to the very end, because I'm like, this doesn't look right. I have all my tally marks, but I'm not in the same spot that I was, or I'm not going to end in the same spot that panel number 1 was done. So I just thought logically, I'm like, I can do this. I've made things. I've made socks. And really, like, if you can make socks, you can think through a sweater panel. So I had to do 2 extra rows and then my bind off to get it to be exactly the same as panel number 1. So it's code for myself and a reminder for myself that when I am doing something like that, I need to be very clear, because I may not remember when I come back to it. I started this in 2019. That was 3 years ago. So I didn't remember that, yeah, there was 16 ridge patterns, but I had to do 2 extra rows in order to bind off on the right side. So, but I got through it. Both panels are done. I just have to seam up. You seam up the sides, you seam up the side, and then the underarm, and then you seam up the shoulders and then you stop so you can leave a neck hole. So that's all I have to do, but I have to be in the right mind space to do that. I might get through 1 seam and then put it away or set it aside and then do another seam, but you will see this in the near future because I'm this close to being completely done, but I need to be in the right mindset to do it. And I wanted to show you my knitting needle set that I used for this. And as I was talking things over with my daughter, she reminded me that this would be great for somebody new like a new knitter, a beginning knitter, someone that doesn't have a lot of money. And I agreed with her, and that's exactly why I bought this. I wasn't a new knitter, but I didn't have a lot of money and this fit in my budget. So I'm not knocking that. If you need something like this to fit in your budget, that's fine. What I'm going to tell you is just things to be aware of. So in my last video, or the one previous to that, I was saying that I had taken my needles out of this project because I needed them for something else, and for whatever reason, I set this project aside to work on the other thing. I don't even know what the other thing is at this point. And I said, my needles were, my 10s and 10.5s were blue, shades of blue, and I didn't know what size. Well, I opened my needle case, and come to find out, I'll show you the needle case. You'll see. So this is my needle case. It holds all the small ones down here on the bottom and the big ones here on the top. Here's size 10. Here's size 10. And that's what my Ravelry page said I was using. I said, that's not blue. And I'm like, well, okay. I must have been wrong. I'm gonna use the pink. So I used the pink. And then, of course, I had a panic moment somewhere in the black section that said, well, what if you put them in the wrong spot? Because they're even labeled. They are labeled. You know, way up here underneath of the tips, you can see that they're labeled. Well, I hope that you can see it, but trust me, they are. But I'm like, what if I put them in the wrong spot and I'm using the wrong size? So I had a panic, and I kept knitting and I said, no, I wouldn't do that. No, I wouldn't do that. But then I had to stop, pull it out, look at the other ones. And just by looking at the green, the blue, and the periwinkle, I could tell that the pink was smaller than those. So therefore, they were in the correct spot. I had to just trust my notes in my Ravelry page, because I did not write it down on my paper notes, that I was in fact using size 10. And then I just had to trust that even if I was using the wrong needle, that it was going to be okay, because I was not ripping out a half a week's worth of stuff. I was not ripping out a half a week's worth of work. But here's the problem that I have with these needles. The needles, the needle tips themselves, there's nothing wrong with these. I don't find anything wrong with them. The noise of the aluminum or whatever these are made out of, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't seem to bother my family. If it does, they just humor me and let me go. Obviously, the smaller the size you go, the less noise they make. The bigger the size, the more noise they make. My problem is on the joins. Let me grab one and show you. Let me just put this together. The join is shaped like this. As you can see, it's not like others. It has a bend to it, and it's not smooth. It seems to be okay on this one, but you can feel there's going to be a catch there. For the big ones, it doesn't seem as bad because your stitches are going to be bigger, and it's less likely, in theory, for the yarn to get snagged on that. But when you're using, say, this set goes all the way down to size 2. When you put size 2 on here, size 2 is nice and straight, and that's fine. But somewhere in the middle, you're going to have an issue with your needles or your stitches catching. But let's take it one step further. The join from the adapter thingy, I don't know what the connector, I don't know what the technical term is, to the cable is worse. It's like it's just like clamped or something, and I don't know. It's hard to describe, and that's where my stitches normally get caught. And it shouldn't be that way. They should just glide right over and be a great transition. So if you ever hear of knitters talking about, you know, why they like needles, that's going to be one of the things, and one of the reasons why they like or dislike needles, because of the joins or the transitions between the cable and the needle tip. So when I'm working with yarn overs, It's horrible. And I made, and I don't know where it's at because I made it a while ago, but I haven't worn it in a while. There's like a kerchief scarf on Ravelry called Reyna, R-E-Y-N-A. It's a free pattern and it's a very easy pattern to follow. And I made one maybe 2 years ago, or I think maybe right before I started these videos anyway. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I use this needle set, and I'm telling you, with the yarn overs in the eyelet section, it was horrible. It was horrible. And it was not the pattern, it was the needle set. And I was so glad when I was finished with that. But I'm almost tempted to make another one just so that way I can have like the freedom of the transitions. I think it would be just lovely and it would fly off my needles. It took me a lot longer than it should have just because I had to fight with the yarn overs all the time because they were catching on that transition. But anywho, so that's that. I have decided that, sorry, can't reach it, that when I finish all of my projects that are using these needles, which I think that may have been the last. I did start my zip line on them, but what I'm going to do is rip back to the ribbing anyways, put on a lifeline. I'm just going to transition that project onto my new needles despite having done the ribbing in the old ones. So I think that might be the end of my knitting whips using these needles, and they're going in the trash. And I feel horrible about it, but they were like 20 bucks that I bought from a website, and then they were drop shipped to me from like China. And so I'm not going to cry over it. I'm missing some of the accessories that came with it, so I'm not going to be upset about it. So those are going as soon as I get the zip line going again. That will be for a while because I'm not there yet. I haven't, I have a task list here. I think I might be slightly off my task list. I think I was supposed to start the baby Christmas sweater first, but there's plenty of time. I'll do that in first thing in September. Well, after this next project. So the next project is, the official name of this project is actually called Protest is Patriotism, I think. I'll link it below. I believe that it's another free pattern. When you're following a bunch of people, you tend to find free patterns because they want to share the designer's pattern and give them some love. So that's how I ended up finding this. So I do find free patterns. Okay, so it's supposed to look like a flag. The blue section of the flag is on one end, and then you do the stripes and end on the other side. So this is how much I've got done so far. I don't know why I have a stitch marker in there, but I do. I have the flag part, or the star part done, and then I'm working on the stripes. And I think it said you're supposed to go until you have 62 stripes of each color. There's 4 rows, if I'm counting correctly, of each color. So you do 4 rows of white, 4 rows of red, 4 rows of white. And the pattern is simple. You do a decrease on one at the beginning and an increase at the other side, just to make it go on the bias. So I don't know how many stitches that's supposed to get up to, but it's going to be larger, I think. I can't remember, guys. I have no idea when I even started this. I am using my new needle, maybe 2 Christmases ago then, because I'm using my new needles. My dog is barking. Can you hear him? And I'm back. Sorry about that. The dog must have thought that someone was here, and he was barking. And he just walked in, but you probably won't be able to see him. So anyway, I have these on my new Chiago needles that I got 2 Christmases ago. So I must have started this in 2020 or maybe in January 2021. Let's see, what size are these? I have no idea. They're size US 5. So I will be plugging away at this. I'm going to start after I get done filming this video, I'm going to start knitting. I get about 45 minutes, maybe more, depending how quickly I can get ready for work in the morning before I leave. And then I get an hour to 2 hours at nighttime. I could stitch for longer, but sometimes my brain just quits on me and I'm done. And that's what happened to me a lot this last week. School starts in my district that I'm working in on Tuesday, and whew, that's a lot of work. But anyway, so I was just like, I was done. My brain was done. One day I did 3 rows and that was it. And I was averaging about 7 to 8.5 minutes a row, depending on if it was a knit row or a purl row, because I knit faster like most people. And I was done. I was done. I was toast after 3 rows. But okay, so I forgot to tell you that the Big Comfy Sweater is knit in Caron's Simply Soft in 3 different colors. Yes, and then this one is knit in Lolo Did It. And the yarn is all from, well, the white is not Lolo Did It, it's Heritage, Cascade Heritage, I think. Let's see if I have I do! Cascade Yarns Heritage. Wow, I can't believe I remember that. 75% superwash and 25% nylon. The Lolo Did It is from September and August of the Quotable Dumbledore Club. One's called Dreams and one's called Choices, but I can't tell you which one is which at this point. But this is Heritage Cascade Yarns Heritage base, and then Dreams and Courage. And I love the tonals in it, in the blue. I mean, I'm done with the blue. I hardly used any, so that will be great for something else because there's hardly any gone. This is it. Now, the other day I was going through my, you're going to get a lot of ramblings when I only have 2 projects to talk about. I was going through my Ravelry page trying to find this pattern to be sure that I had it and ready to go and whatever. And I saw that the designer has another free pattern just like this one, but she uses beads for the stars instead of doing the white. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had have known that, and I mean, yeah, I'm not that far along, but if I had have known that, I would have put the beads in because I didn't like putting in these little white stars. Now, her pattern did it differently, and I don't remember what I did, but I just strung my yarn across the back and kept it really loose so it won't pull. I didn't like her method of doing it, but that's fine. We can all modify things and, you know, do it our own way. But if I had known that she had a version that used beads instead, oh my gosh, yes, I would have done that in a heartbeat. I would have done beads. Why I didn't think of it myself before I started, I have no idea. That would have been so easy. I wouldn't have had the floats in the back. It would have looked a lot neater. It would have been cooler, you know, like with more interest and talking points to it. Oh my gosh, I so totally would have done that. But I am not taking out all of my work and starting over. So I'm just going to continue on and see how many stripes. Let me go ahead and take this stitch marker off the blue section and put it up on the row that I just finished. So that way, well, finished the last time. So now we can see that I'm going to be starting red, and we'll see how many stripes I can get done this week. So how many stripes would I have to get done in 7 days? Or how many would I have to get done every day in each day in the whole week in order to be done on time to show you next time? Wouldn't that be cool if I mean, my knitting is done on the sweater. I just have to construct it and put it together. But how cool would it be if I got the knitting done on 2 projects in 2 weeks to show you guys? Because then I'm moving on to bigger things. Well, not literally bigger because the baby sweater is like this size. Yeah, but I am really excited because sometimes my WIPs weigh on me, and you guys might feel the same way, and that's why a lot of people are monogamous project people, because they can't handle the stress of having the projects stare them down. Like, there's a sweater over there that's staring me down that I have to tear out and fix. Here's the problem with that one. I don't have a Ravelry page for it. So I have no idea what needles I used. So that'll be fun. Yeah. I don't think that I'll have a lot to do on that one because the modification that I found for it, I think she stopped on row 19 of the chart and then put in the neckline. So I just have to rip back and then do the neckline. I just have no idea what needle to use. So, anywho, I hope that you saw something that you liked today. I hope that you are proud of my progress because I was really thinking to all of you this week and be like, oh, I need to get the sweater done for them. And I finished knitting it last night and then I got it cast off and I did nothing else. I'm like, I have an hour where I can cross stitch and I can get 4 to 5 strands in before I go to bed. Nope, didn't do it. I was just done. So I do hope that you're proud of the progress that I'm making. I hope that you enjoy watching my progress through all of these different projects. And I hope that you saw something to either encourage you to pick up a languishing whip, to try something new, or to just work on the ones that you are working on to get them done. And until next Sunday, bye.